Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the To-Do List. I'm your host, Eric Fisher, and this is the show where I talk to the people behind the productivity. This week I'm welcoming back my good friend, Jeff Sieh, to have a conversation with me about a book we both read a while ago and have been implementing pieces of it into our lives ever since. The book is called Rest: Why You Get More Done When You Work Less by Alex Pang. And in this conversation, you'll hear us talk about why rest is not the opposite of work, and why rest and work are partners and go hand in hand and can complement each other. So, in effect, it's not that you're working less, it's that you're getting more done when you work less, when you're resting, when you're intentionally resting, when you're investing in your resting, you get more done. And I really think this is a milestone episode for a lot of reasons. I think you're going to really enjoy this, and I know you're going to really enjoy the book. You should probably just check that out as well. You'll find the link to that in the show notes, which you can find at beyondthetodolist.com/230. And I'll just get out of the way and say, enjoy this conversation I had with Jeff Sieh about rest. Well, this week it is my privilege to welcome back to the show my friend, Jeff Sieh. Welcome back, Jeff.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
So we've been talking. This book came out. Gosh, we both wanted to talk about this book. And it's called Rest: Why You Get More Done When You Work Less. And it's not about like, hey, let's just do less work. You get better work done. You get good work done, and honestly, better work and higher quality work, and even more work. But it's all about coupling that or balancing that with actual rest. And I know, like, people out there, they're like, yeah, we've heard about this. Rest is a thing that's like elusive. You can never have it. It's not going to ever happen. I take breaks, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But the book talks way more about rest as if it's something that is a partner to work. It's not the anti-work thing. You know what I mean? Like it's not
working. Right. Yeah. It's not working. But the thing that got me about this book, and you and I have discussed it at length, because it was kind of, I don't want to say a paradigm shift because that's overused, but it did make
game changer.
A game changer. The thing it really made us think about is it really did. It made me structure rest, I guess would be the same thing. It would make me almost schedule rest. It made me make it a priority instead of something that I just didn't do. Like I just didn't do work and I slept in on Saturday, and actually going and say, okay, how am I going to hack rest? So that could be another title of the book, actually, is Hacking Rest. Or
it could be that, yeah.
I mean, because that's what it is. These tools and tips inside the book on, steps to do, like, really make your rest the best rest it can be. That sounds like a recruiting poster. But
hacking work, making your rest the best best rest it can be. So,
that's right.
Yeah. And I think that's for me, like when you think about it, like you think, oh, rest. Yeah, like that's good. But you almost feel like it's, reading a book about how to rest feels like trying to read something to get away with justifying procrastination and laziness and not having, work ethic and drive and, quote, hustle and all of that. And I'm just like, no, actually, this is actually going to, if anything, this book is almost the secret to being able to hustle when you need to and then not hustling when you shouldn't be.
And it feels weird because rest is a thing that we associate with sleep. And that's kind of a natural thing. It's like, here's a book on how to go to the bathroom. Yes. We all rest and we all have to, but this is really how to do it the right way. And not only why it's important for you to do it, but some steps that you can take to really optimize. That's another good word. And optimize your rest. And we both have practiced a lot of these things and really have noticed a difference.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say, one of the biggest key pieces from the book is this idea that rest, I'm going to go ahead and say not only can it be active, that it really ought to be active. And what I mean by active, there's twofold meaning there. One is you can be doing something fully physically active and have it be rest, but also active in the sense that it's intentional. You've intentionally decided to be resting and doing something other than your normal, your work, your everyday that gets you away from that so that you can recharge and be fully usable for that again when it's time.
Yeah. And the thing also is I'm all about creativity and creativity hacks and how can you be better a creative person. And oddly enough, rest is a big factor in becoming more creative, being more creative, have more ideas pop in your mind, and how to use those hand in hand on how to be, you're creative and be creative in your rest, and how rest makes you more creative. And so there's all those different things that factor into it as well.
Well, it's the idea that, almost like a person who goes to the gym, like today's leg day, tomorrow is arms and something else day. And, you alternate because you can't have the same muscle get worked over and over again, or it doesn't grow, or it doesn't have any energy left in it. So
just like food, you both you and I like to eat. But it would be like we don't like to eat the same thing. And you and I love pizza. Like whenever we get together for a mastermind or whatever, we always try to hit a pizza joint or some place that serves mac and cheese. Just so you guys know, if you ever want to have us, that's what we like. But we wouldn't want to eat that every day for the rest of our lives. You need variety, and rest needs the same thing if you want to optimize it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it can be, we're talking about, there's probably some standard things you need to put into place first and foremost that are like daily elements of rest in your life, as well as bigger chunks of stuff for even daily and weekly, and and then the weekend. And when I say weekend and planning for the weekend and rest, I automatically think of one particular person, and I know you know who I'm thinking of.
Right.
And so Michael Hyatt. Yeah.
I love planners. Planners are cool. They help you organize your life. And I thought that's great. But the thing that made it stand out for me, and maybe it's in a lot of other ones, but I've never seen it before, but Michael Hyatt really, he schedules the weekend and schedules the rest, and scheduling like naps even. And so that kind of changed the way, starting to schedule rest in other than on the weekend and, like going to bed, but makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's a big proponent of naps, and I started trying, if I need one, to take a nap, and boy, that sure boosts creativity too. So, I mean, it's really, this whole scheduling of rest has kind of been a new thing that I've implemented in my life lately. Yeah,
being intentional about it, planning it to where you have it if you need it, or actually planning it so that you have it even when you don't know that you need it.
Right.
And you can go overboard. Like, I know, and I'm not saying he does this, but I'm saying I know that Michael Hyatt will literally unplug from work stuff for the entire weekend. Now, he doesn't necessarily unplug from social, which could be a debatable topic, I think, to a certain extent.
Right.
And let's go to that later. I know right now he's on a month-long sabbatical where he's not doing any work thought at all. And he's not doing emails, doing no work whatsoever. And if you could imagine that, like, honestly, I would love to do that. I would love to take a month off of everything. But I do know. So I said, here's a funny thing. Like, I sent him a message on Instagram stories, cause he had posted he was going on sabbatical and da 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 da. And I said, okay, I'll see your reply to this message when you get back in a month. And he replied right away and was like, oh no, I'm still using social while I'm gone. So he's actually, and I really admire that he's doing that, in the fact that he's proving that, like, it's not a compulsion thing. It's part of he's using it for the enjoyment factor. But anyway, we can talk about the social media aspect of it later if we want to, or go to it now, I guess. I don't know.
Well, my thing is, I also want to highlight that, some of us are, and it's all about seasons of life.
Yes.
Michael Hyatt has been doing this for a long time. He's got a team behind us. A lot of us don't have teams. You and I both can't do a sabbatical now.
No.
It just can't, financially or family wise. It just doesn't work. Someday, I would love to do that too. But we can take mini sabbaticals that do a lot of recharging and a lot of stuff that we can do that gives us a lot of benefits that we tend to try to cram stuff in. And you and I were talking about this before, and I had read an article a couple weeks ago about people. It's vacation times right now. And one of the problems is people stress so much about their vacation that it's not really worth it. At the end of the day, it doesn't give them any benefits because they try to cram too much into every day to get, like the most bang out of their buck. If they're going to Disneyland, I got to go and do all of it, all the first day. And this article was really talking about, hey, give yourself time. Don't, make it okay before you even start to let yourself know that you're not going to do certain things because it's just not practical. And that's, I think, really key too, because I think at least in, our nation, we do try to cram a lot of stuff in our vacation where it's not even almost fun anymore.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring up Disney because I literally just got back from there with my family last week. And one of the things we were talking about after the trip was the idea that what we would have done differently is we would have gotten down there to Florida and checked into where we were going and stayed for, a night or two before getting over to Disney. And even then, like, we didn't try to do Disney, all of the above all at once. We picked one park per day and did 2 days, and that was it. And even then it was a little overwhelming. And, I learned how to, and this is a skill. Rest is a skill. But you're going to learn how to do this better as you try to do it and attempt to do it small scale and slowly, build up. I mean, there are times where I get through a weekend and I wonder, did I really get enough rest? And sometimes I feel like, no, probably not. And even Sunday night, I'm thinking, I feel like I almost need to crack the laptop just so that tomorrow morning I don't feel as rushed. And I hate that feeling. And so I'm trying to figure out how to, get around that, not look at email over the weekend, which there are weekends where I don't. There are weekends where I take a peek and then I always regret it. And almost always regret it. And it's just like, so yeah, it's a skill and it's about getting better at it. It's about not trying to cram in as much. I mean, as we, kind of go back to what Michael Hyatt does, like he literally will he checks out on Friday at the end of the day and then he is off. Like he often, again, he's older and is an empty nester, and he and his wife, Gail, like they will get out of town often from Nashville, which is great. Unfortunately, not great for me because when I go down there and then he's not there to visit, I'm like, crap. But
well, here's one of the things, we mentioned like a lot of us, and I have a feeling a lot of your listeners are in the same situation. We can't take a month sabbatical off, but we can do things that we can in our own realm of, now what I can do is like if I'm going to Dallas, and Dallas for me is about 2.5 hours away. If we have to go there for a family thing or like we're going to a show or whatever, instead of a lot of people will drive to Dallas, go do the game or whatever, and then drive back. Well, that takes a lot of time. And so I'm blessed to have the funds and resources that I can get a hotel. And so I'm not stressed and I know how I would be and that this will bless me and my family. I'll spend that extra money to get a hotel room. And you know this, even like when we meet for like the Tribes conference in Nashville, I can drive it in a day, but a lot of times I'll do is I'll work, till the afternoon a little bit, and then I'll drive halfway and spend the night and then have a nice leisurely drive, not kill myself getting up and going. That kind of stuff, I think learning how your body relates and how you need rest. We can't take sabbaticals, but we are, a lot of us are blessed enough to have enough finances to get a hotel room. And it doesn't have to be like at the Ritz or anything, but just a place to crash and decompress. I tell you, it makes a world of difference. I'm a new person. My family loves me more when I do those kind of things, when we can have that leisurely time and not the mad scramble, it seems so much, to get out the door.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I like what you're saying about how, people can't typically afford to, unless they've really been intentional about it and prepared for it, they can't do a sabbatical. They can't do, even 2 weeks off is hard for people. It's even a week off, like I just did, is, sometimes a little bit harder depending upon, depending upon, your position, what it is you do, how you do it. So for most of us, the practical day in, day out, is we've got work days in front of us and we've got weekends. And I'm not saying, hey, let's live for the weekends like a lot of people are, a lot of people. What's funny is a lot of people, what is it they say? They say something along the lines of,
working for the weekend.
Yeah. But not only that, they take that and they spin it and they say that it's like, oh man, those people who are just working to then have their weekend, like I pity them. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, the weekend's time is much more free in some ways, depending upon, I don't know. I'm going down a bad tangent here, so I probably should stop.
The other thing is people flip it and go, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
And there's the rub. There it is right there. I think it's those two things combined that it's like, no, what it is, it's both are true and both are false, both those sayings. And what it comes down to is even if you love what you're doing, you cannot do it 8 hours a day and then come back the next day and the next day and the next day and then work on the weekend as well. You will burn out. You will run out of ideas, or you will come up with worse ideas, because you have to deliberately rest in order to stimulate your brain and sustain your brain in different ways and have creativity as a resource, or else you will just not have it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Or you'll treat the people you work with poorly as well.
Right. Well, you mentioned deliberate rest, and maybe we can go into that, because there's different types of rest. And to be deliberate for all those types of rest, I think, is important. So, for one example, for me is, I try to get away from screens, and I do this mainly so I can stay creative, because my job is usually based on my output of creative ideas and videos or whatever. And I have to cultivate that. And this came almost out of necessity, is I got so tired of looking at screens. And so what I try to do is I got into wood carving, and I try to wood carve at least 20 minutes a night, even if it's something stupid simple, or woodworking with my dad on the weekends or whatever. But every night I try to break away and get away from those goofy screens. And I have found that has, like, the biggest thing that I have done that increases my creativity is that kind of stuff. And so I think that's one type of, I'm working with my hands, I'm going, and not looking at screens. I'm still being creative in a different way, but it stimulates some part of my brain that helps me have other thoughts when I wake up in the morning and start fresh.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at with the whole word active, is that it's not a passive thing. You're not sitting there doing nothing. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Rest can come in that form as well. Rest can be incredibly passive.
And meditation.
Yes. It can come very much in the form of still intentionally, but doing nothing, like not consuming, not creating, literally letting hanging yourself up to dry for a while and just letting yourself hang out, Right.
Like you just mentioned your trip. And so I just got back from a trip with my son for he graduated, and my dad took me on a senior trip, and I took mine to the same place in Branson, Missouri. And we sat on the dock and fished most all the time. We went to an amusement park a couple times, but mostly we sat there and fished and talked, because that's what he wanted to do. And that recharged me more than anything. And it wasn't a super long, like week-long trip. And this is another thing that you and I both have kind of figured out how to hack our schedules, is like we have a Friday show. I left right after that and drove down there. And then I was back into the office on Tuesday. And it wasn't a long, drawn-out thing, but it was what I did, which was just sitting and watching the fog roll in over the river and fish. It rejuvenates you. And so that would probably be even less active than carving,
right?
But it's like you said, it's okay to sit there and do nothing, or sit there and hold a fishing pole, or write on your great American novel, if that's what helps you relax and use a different part of your brain and rejuvenate you. So I would say, wouldn't you say to figure that out for yourself would be like, take a journal, Eric, and figure out like, okay, I did this, and I really like that. And I really felt like on Monday I had all these new ideas. How have you discovered what your, thing is that rejuvenates you?
Well, and I would even say, there's a definite thing. Speaking of notebooks, being able to pull one out and have one with you on the go, say on a weekend, that when you think of something, oh, I could tweet that, or I could, that's an idea for this or that or whatever. Like, I don't know that it's wrong to capture ideas on the go, but I think then going down the rabbit trail of like trying to craft them and do those things, especially if that's what you do during your regular week, like shift into a different gear, actually, is really a better way to put it. Like, shift into different gears, not just in your day to day. Like, again, we should probably go back to some of the day to day stuff after we get off this weekend stuff. Shift into a different gear deliberately, coast for a while even, and let yourself, recharge in a way that like maybe a hybrid would, where it's not using the gas stuff. It's coasting and it's charging your electric battery to use and travel in a different way. But yeah, I think that, for me, I'm just going to confess, like I love TV. And I love movies, and I want to go to the theater, and I want to sit downstairs in my big screen 4K that I have now, and comfy couch and sit with the kids, and I mean, and it's an interactive family thing, most of the time.
I also think you've hacked this because I know you go out once a week with you and some guys and watch this. It's the same kind of thing.
Yes.
But it's almost that active resting, because you're going there and you're still but you're discussing and debating, the topics that you watch.
Disgusting. That's funny.
No, you're disgusting. What
disgusting.
You watch is just no.
We discussed things. No,
discussed. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, we get together on a Wednesday nights. Me and some guy friends, we get together and we watch old episodes of The West Wing and we talk about it. But honestly, like after doing it for almost 2 years now or more, come to think about it, like we're already, we're talking about like maybe watching other things or whatever. And the instigation of putting a different thing to watch in place is still so that we have like a kind of,
springboard
rallying point, but honestly, most of the time we end up talking. Like we do still watch stuff most of the time, but we do like majority of the time we're together. Still, we're talking. We're talking more than watching. And that's what I'm saying with like, sitting down and watching stuff and whatever. I mean, I often in the evenings like to watch like half-hour comedy stuff. I've gone through a number of series, over the past 4 years, starting with Seinfeld way back in the day, right after Social Media Marketing World, the first one I went to. And, yeah, it kind of just lightens my mood. It's almost like sitting there and just like decompressing,
Well, but this reminds me of one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. What he did with Tolkien, went and did the Inklings. That was kind of almost your West Wing is your Inklings.
Yes.
Where you do go stuff. But this all bounces back to being this active rest. You're not just laying on a couch somewhere. But this is resting, but you're using a different part of your brain interacting. And I know that helps make you more creative.
Yeah. And again, Alex Pang, the author of the book, doesn't talk about it as if it's different gears, but I like thinking about it in that way, where I like thinking about like, hey, when I am ultra focused during a work week time and I'm in one of the 4 to 5 hours that I really am going to get a lot done, kind of a mode, like that's a high gear. Takes a lot of focus and effort to make it happen. And then I'm in like a different gear for other times in that day. And then in the evening and in the morning, I'm in a different gear. And then on the weekend, it's a whole other gear. And like, there's, and then there's the laying on the couch and doing nothing mode, or the laying on the couch and watching TV mode, or the sitting and watching with my family, which is a whole other thing. Like there's way more than like the 5 or 6 gears that are normal in a car, but like, you see what I'm saying?
And what made me feel a lot better is that podcast you had with the author of The Creative Curve a while back. And the whole thing, it made me feel so good because I did it and I was like, I kind of felt guilty about it for so many years, is I collect things to help me be creative. Like like you said, like I'll watch some comedy and there'll be something that'll spark and I'll write down an idea, or I'll go for a walk and that'll spark an idea, or I'll listen to a podcast or watch, see something read an article or something I read and kick all the ideas. And he mentioned all that. That's collecting to be creative. And
it's consuming.
Yeah, it was me consuming to be creative. And so that, as long as I don't abuse it and say, well, I'm just going to sit and watch, binge watch all the Marvel episodes, and that'll make me creative. That's not, I'm actively trying to get ideas when I'm collecting. And that made me feel a lot better listening to that podcast, because it was so much like, that's what all these creative people do. And I was like, wow, okay, I feel good because that's what I do. And for so many years, I thought, well, that's just wasting time. And it really isn't.
Yeah. I think about it almost as metaphorically back to food, like we were talking about earlier, where it's you consume for fuel. Well, you consume content for creating. Like it's by observing and seeing and thinking about other things that even if you're doing a different kind of work as you're watching it, you're still kind of analyzing it and or enjoying it to then maybe use it in something else that you do, especially if you're a knowledge worker.
Right.
So I mentioned this 4 hours, 5 hours thing, and I think I should probably clarify that, like in the book, by the way, we're barely skimming over the book. There's so much in this book.
Yeah, it's a great book.
We're just kind of taking the stuff that is readily applicable to us, but there's a lot more in there that I know is going to be applicable to a lot of other people. But one of the things he does is he kind of goes over a lot of, high output, really creative people. And he says by studying what they did in their, not just their mornings, but in their days, he saw that basically they had 4 to 5 hours of concentrated work, and that was a good day for them. And we think about that from our, quote, modern work day, and we're like 8 hours a day and, and then some, where, crack the laptop in the evening, get up early at 6 a.m. and do more. And it's just like, no, like you're really not outputting more or even better, especially is the key piece here when you're doing that. And so, and by the way, I'm recording, again with Cal Newport coming up, and that's going to be, interesting because I want to kind of revisit the whole focus thing with him now that it's been a few years. He's gone off and he's got other things coming up for sure, new books and stuff, but like, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, this time thing ties into also what Chris Brogan always says, what he schedules only a small part of his day because of all the other,
Right.
And so, he schedules that time, which is his focus time, and then leaves the rest open for other things in life to happen, which ties into like, you only have so much hours of really concentrated work. And so you think about how small it is, but then you think about, okay, how can I optimize that? How can I remove the distractions? When do I need to take breaks? Because I can't myself, and now other people can, like Cal Newport and I think some other high functioning people, which I am not, they can do 4 hours straight of really concentrated stuff. And I can do that rarely. Most of the time it's like I can work for 30 minutes and then I get up and I have to do, I can't sit on my butt that long. I have to go take a walk. And that's another thing he mentioned in the book, the importance of walking, and how many of the smart creative people, and he did some studies on, actually go for walks, and that changed the way I think about it too. And I've been trying to schedule those in my day as well. Yeah,
and the other thing I was going to say, when you brought up Chris Brogan and not scheduling out his whole day, it made me think again back to Michael Hyatt's full focus planner that we referenced earlier in terms of in regards to the weekend and planning that. One of the things that he suggests with the planning of your workday is not only to have the startup routine and the shutdown routine, but that you're not putting on that list of stuff to do today more than, say, basically you've got your big three, and I think if you thought about it, like that 4 to 5 hours of focused, concentrated work spread across 3 different things. And maybe if it was like, hey, here's, if we take what you were just saying, where you take about a half hour to maybe an hour if you're on a roll, and you almost push one of the 3 big things to completion, take a break and then come back and finish it. And then you move on and, number 2, same thing, 3, same thing. That's a good day. And I think that's kind of, for us that are not as practiced with this focus time, or not as, for those of us, I have to throw this in there, for those of us who don't have complete control over our own time because we work for other people and things come up and we have calls that are not things we planned for, like that's probably the best approach to do that. And then in the meantime, like, if you've got those 3 things, the 3 big things done today, and you got 4 to 5 hours of solid work, and then maybe you did some like passive admin stuff and you call it a day, like, you're still getting more done than just frittering back and forth between a whole bunch of different things on top of just not resting.
Right.
Yeah, I just think that this is huge to not overdo your to-do list.
Right. Yeah.
To have the overflowing to-do list is really where it goes.
When you're done, like with your day, how do you check out? And so you and I have talked about this, and one of the hacks that I use is that, like, when it comes to the weekend, I change my watch face on my Apple Watch to be like Mickey Mouse, like the retro Mickey Mouse one, because that way, whenever I look at my watch, because I'm usually looking at my watch because what I got to do next, I am reminded that it's the weekend. I'm supposed to be relaxing, and just that little, mental or visual trigger really does help. And even during the work day, when you check out, putting your phone in the other room when you're sitting at dinner, that kind of stuff. What are some other hacks that you have found that you really like to use?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'll do is I have found, even though because of the nature of my day job and your day job, even to a certain extent, is that we're on social media and we get notifications there from people who are doing things over the weekend, I'm thinking deliberately about Facebook at this moment. Like, I try not to go in there because I see it as almost another work email inbox. And so, number one, I will actually do the trick on iOS where you offload the app. You don't delete it, but you offload it so that you have to re-download it again, even though it's still the placeholder for the app is still there. And by the way, I have all my social apps in a folder on the second page of my phone. So I have to dig a little bit harder to get to them. But I will offload those apps and maybe I'll do Twitter and a couple others. And I will typically do that so that I am not tempted to, even though I may or may not have my phone, I'd love to get to the point where not having my phone on me at all or as much, or even having one of those burner phones where my number forwards to it for calls only. I was considering that actually. So, that's kind of one of the things. Then the other is I will use something like Boomerang where I will pause my inbox in multiple places so that nothing new comes in. And actually, in fact, what did I just say I did? Offloading my mail app on my phone so that I don't have the ability to check my mail randomly while I'm standing in a line. Cause it's a habit. Like, we've trained ourselves, these last 10 years, we've grown accustomed to, slide to open or press and hold with thumbprint to open on all these, devices in our pockets while we're out and about, when we should just be decompressing and being bored on purpose.
Right. That's
so. I'm trying to think of what else I do. I try to do those things. I try to, do the shutdown routine. I try to plan the weekend and say, okay, what are we going to do this weekend that's different from the work week? And I'm not saying, don't have cool, unique things to do during the work week. That would be great too. Like, heck, my wife and I went to the movies last night, completely unplanned. At least I was like, hey, you want to go see the movies? She was like, yeah. And we did. And we never do that. I want to do that. I mean, I want to go like every Tuesday when it's cheap ticket night. So, anyway.
Well, and then it's deliberate practice. And this stuff that, like, in your podcast with Cal Newport, you mentioned as well, is that, one of my things is offloading my tasks and writing them down so I don't worry about them when I'm supposed to be resting. That's a huge thing for me. And I use beyond the to-do, not beyond the to-do list, but I use Todoist for that, to capture my ideas. And I'm trying to I was like telling my wife how much it's changed how I can sleep better and all this stuff. And the other thing, offloading that, and also saying, like, I just say out loud is like, shut down complete. So I could say that because, like, when I leave my office, because my office is at my house in a portable building out back. So I don't forget, like, did I lock the door? Did I set the alarm? Did I and if I say that, and it sounds stupid to say it out loud, but it really does make me go, okay, I'm done. I am done. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, especially now with the kids home, the end of the day is different for me. I'm trying to figure out how to press, stop and, close out the day. Like, that's literally funny because that's when we're recording this. So I'm thinking about it, like, actively in my head. I'm like, dinner, and maybe it is like, just, maybe it's a thing where it's like, I shut down as much as I can, but then I step away for a while and then I ease into doing other things in the evening. I don't know. It's different for me in my season right now. Your season's different.
Right.
And you've got your, man shed in your yard, whereas I'm literally inside the house. So,
but some of the things is making having triggers for yourself that work. Like, for the one you taught me that really helps is, like, not to eat after supper is brush your teeth,
right.
And that could be a shutdown sequence. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm not doing work. And I'll put sandals on. Like, when I really want to, like, feel like I'm not working, I'll put sandals on. I don't know why, and my kids are like, what is Dad in sandals for?
It's Mr. Rogers, where he switches his shoes and his sweater and stuff when he comes in, and then when he's done and when he's leaving, he's doing the opposite. Like that, that mental image right now actually really helps me with that. I think I might try and start doing something along those lines.
I'm not going to knit you a sweater. I'm not going to.
No, and I'm not going to wear it. So, but maybe switching into sandals or something. Although I typically will wear sandals if it's warm enough. So, anyway, I'm trying to think of where else we can go here, because I know we're kind of running down on this topic. But I mean, I really think the thing to keep in mind here, one, I think everybody should get the book. This is a no-brainer book for most people to grab. And I think really you only by studying what he says in the book, as well as studying yourself, are you going to figure out and be convinced, to be honest, that this is a huge thing that is honestly, I think, a real stumbling block, or speed bump to a lot of people's true, having energy and creativity that they may not be even fully aware of. You know, like they have tired parts in their mind that they are not even aware of. And like I said before, like they think they have great ideas all day left and right, but they could have even more, or even take them to the next level. Right. Not even to mention the fact that, like, again, you're probably cranky with your family and cranky with your workers and, you know, whether they're above or below you, like you could have this all so much better set up. I know I could.
Right. Well, one of the things, I think what people need to think about too, and I have actually started trying to do this, is in investing in your rest. Mm-hmm. So like I invested in tools to try carving. If it didn't work, I would try something else. You know, so like if you've always wanted to paint and you think that'd be something, invest in some paint classes and some paints and stuff. And I'm always trying now to hack my sleep. And so, you know, Eric, our bed stunk and it was bothering me. And I'm like, gosh. And so Eric told me about the beds, you know, that he uses. And I went to one similar. It was like a Lisa bed that came in the mail, and it was awesome. And so that increased my sleep. And recently I started using a weighted blanket of all things, which I never thought I would use. And I studied that it helps with anxiety and helps people stay in the deep sleep a little bit longer. And I tried it out and I love it. My wife hates it. She does not like to be confined, and it's not confining. But there's something about having that weighted blanket that I missed it when I went on vacation. And it's not hot and all that stuff. But if I wouldn't have been actively pursuing better ways to rest, I would have never have come across that idea. And so think about that stuff. Don't be scared to try new ways to hack your rest, and then, you know, use what works and throw away the rest.
Yeah, I love weighted blankets. My son is using my daughter's old one, and then my daughter has a new one, and I actually really want to get one for myself as well. So they're on. You find them on sale on Amazon often, pretty well. So it's like,
yeah, that's where I got mine.
Yeah. So, So I guess the thing that I would kind of want to close out on is just saying, like, look, you may think you're good at breaks or that you're taking breaks at all, but I'm telling you, you might find it's better to not just think, okay, I need to walk away for a minute. No, you need to start integrating rest, not as a walk away from your work, but as a tool to do better work. Think of it that way, and you will get more out of your work as well as more out of your rest, and you're going to feel better and you're going to do better work. So I don't know. I think anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's great. I think that's, this is all about productivity and being beyond the to-do list. I think rest is something you have to add to your to-do list, and not just, schedule just, I'm not going to do anything right now, but really think of how I can increase my productivity through rest, and then track it. I think one of the things you and I learned, especially from the Full Focus Planner, is being able to track that and then make adjustments after that.
Yeah, perfect. Jeff, it's always awesome. I mean, I talk to you all the time. I mean, almost every day. So this is a normal conversation for us, just, a little bit more polished and recorded. But I'd love for everybody to find out where you're at. And, and by the way, if you guys really like, Jeff and I talking about this, we are planning, I guess I'll tease this out. We are planning on doing a podcast together coming very, very soon. Yeah. And you'll find out more about that. So if you enjoyed this conversation, I'd love for you to, let us know somehow. If you know us, reach out to us on social. But Jeff, where can people find you other than when you're talking to me?
Yeah, I'd love for them to connect with me on all the socials. I'm Jeff, SIEH. That's I before E, especially in C. And then also at manlypinteresttips.com, where we're always adding testosterone one pin at a time. Sign up for the newsletter there, because I'm always talking about social media stuff on that. And so love to connect with you that way.
Awesome. Jeff, thanks for being here. Glad to record with you again.
Awesome.
Like I said at the end of the conversation there, I talk with Jeff all the time about all this kind of stuff. It's cool for me to be able to share one of those conversations with you, because I think you can get a lot out of it. We've both read that book. We're kind of like doing a book study in front of you, and I think you need to get the book. This is one of the handful of books across the years that I think is a must-have, this rest book. The book is called, again, Rest, Why You Get More Done When You Work Less. It's by Alex Pang. You'll find it on, any bookseller's place. You can go through my affiliate link if you want to help support the show by going to the show notes for this episode at beyondthetodolist.com/230. There you will find the link for the book as well as links to anything else we mentioned in this episode. And you can also then from there hit share and share this episode with somebody that you know needs to hear it. We all need to be taking more intentional investing in our resting. And with that, I just want to say thank you for listening, and I'll see you next episode.